the Democrats and the Republicans in the Senate got together and miraculously, after decades of lethargy and indifference and sandbagging and sabotage, arrived at a border compromise package with billions of dollars of new investment for Border Patrol officers, immigration and asylum judges, better surveillance and detection technology for fentanyl and other kinds of drugs. And then the fourth branch of government, Donald Trump, acting with the fifth branch of government, Vladimir Putin, blew up the whole package. Why? Because Donald Trump doesn't want a border solution. He wants a border problem to run on. And of course, Vladimir Putin doesn't want $60 billion going to President Zelensky and the people of Ukraine trying to defend their land and their people and their institutions. And so they just wrecked the whole thing.
Your beautiful Democrat bastions of socialism, these cities are destroyed. And all the Democrats now think this is a problem. Just a year ago, the administration was saying, there's no problem, there's no problem. The southern border's secure, the southern border's secure. Literally, the vice president, the president repeatedly said this. President Trump is not the person that caused this. It is President Biden. And the fact that President Biden said that it's Trump's fault is the most ridiculous thing in the whole world.
I'm sorry, my colleague just exited the room. He offered some provocative suggestions. One was in talking about our beautiful democratic bastions of socialism. I'm not quite sure what he's referring to, but certainly not the ugly bastions of communism that Donald Trump celebrates every day, like his man crush, the dictator of North Korea, or Vladimir Putin, the former chief of the KGB, who's his clear puppet master, or the Chinese leader Xi, who Donald Trump has praised more than 20 times in tweets or X's or whatever he sends out to the world.
President Biden and his administration have refused to take any responsibility for the catastrophe they created. And now the Biden administration is doing what it does best, asking taxpayers for more money. But more money isn't going to solve much on the border, because what we are seeing isn't a money problem. It's a policy problem. It's a problem of not enforcing U.S. immigration law. No amount of money can fix bad policy. Our solutions are simple. Illegal activity on the border must be met with adequate and timely consequences, not a quick release to await years-long removal proceedings where hundreds of thousands of aliens file frivolous or fraudulent applications that create delays for those who truly qualify.
It's become obvious that Trump's party doesn't want immigration solutions at the border. They want immigration problems to run against. The other main issue they used to demagogue, abortion, is no longer available to them because the country's negative response to the Supreme Court's destruction of Roe versus Wade in 2022 demonstrates this is still a country that prizes freedom, rejects theocratic repression, and opposes the MAGA Republicans' eagerness to pass a national law banning abortion rights. So they can't talk about those plans anymore. The cat's got their tongue. I beseech my colleagues, I will read any book, any magazine, any speech you've given that you want me to read. Read this report and come back and tell me if you think Donald Trump did the right thing in converting the White House into a for-profit operation. No other president in American history has come anywhere close. And you ask why he's so determined to stay in office that he would unleash violence against his own vice president, the brother of your colleague, of our colleague. Why would he do that? It's because it was a money-making operation, and it was a great business grift for a guy who went bankrupt several times. And yet, out of some misguided partisan loyalty, you're going to stick with him. I don't even know why you stick with him. He was a Democrat longer than he was a Republican. He wanted to run for president on the Reform Party. You guys have been taken over by an absolute con man. And now you're acting like members of a religious cult who don't even remember how you got in the first place. We say return the profits, Donald Trump. $7.8 million. I've got a letter, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to share with you telling Donald Trump to return these $7.8 million. It's a small fraction of what he raked in. We want to know about the other 2 years in office. We want to know about the other businesses, not just those 4 that we were able to get information on. And we want to know about every country on earth, not just the 20 autocracies and dictatorships that we found. This is our government. This is our Constitution. And we're going to stand up for it against Donald Trump and anybody who follows him to the path of oblivion. Abraham Lincoln started your party as a third party to replace the Whigs because they wouldn't take a moral stand against slavery. It was a pro-freedom, anti-slavery, pro-union, pro-honesty party, and your party has been reduced to a corrupt, authoritarian cult of personality. And everybody does whatever Donald Trump tells them to do, which is what we're doing here today with this stupid attempt to hold Hunter Biden in contempt when he has come forward to say he will testify and give you everything you want, as the chairman of the committee repeatedly offered in public. So forgive my outrage and indignation, but enough is enough. Let's get back to the business of the people, as Ms.
Chair
Brown
recognizes
said.
Mr. Higgins for 5 minutes.
I walked Black Lives Matter Plaza yesterday with a Chinese American.
Yeah, I didn't
woman
ask
who
you
served-
about that.
No,
the
I'm
Chinese
answering your
American-
question. Excuse
Okay.
me.
Yeah.
And she advocated. She
Is it
survived-
okay, Mr. Chairman, if we
she
go over here?
advocated
Because
for leaving those
the witness
signs
wants
up.
to
No, I'd like
filibuster
to
a little
answer
bit.
more than yes or no
We can
questions.
let him answer the question.
Yeah, I can let him answer because I wasn't quite done yet, but now he's occupying my time. If you want him to answer, that's fine. So yes, about the renaming of the bases after pro-union, pro-American
Thank
generals.
you, Mr. Raskin. I'd like
Yeah.
to answer that question in more than just a yes or no format.
Okay.
I walked the Black Lives Matter Plaza yesterday with Xi Van Fleet, Chinese Maoist Cultural Revolution survivor, and I had an interesting conversation with her in which she advocated, I'd never thought about this before. And by the way, I don't address this topic in my book. I wrote about Marxist critical race theory. She said, I'd recommend that once we defeat wokeism, we leave all of the Black Lives Matter paint on the ground and the signs naming the streets. I asked her why. She says, because it's a reminder that once here on the north side of the White House, we had a woke revolution, a Marxist revolution take place, and I agree with that. It's a reminder that there has been such divisive conflict in this enemy before that people were willing to use violent force to hurt one another. I have no problem with the general's efforts.
If I understand you correctly, I'm trying to torture out an
We'll
answer,
just
but
let him-
what you're saying is that we should have army bases named after Confederate generals or Nazi generals, people we've defeated
No,
in war.
I'm
Is
not,
that right?
I'm not willing
Just a
to
minute.
let you put words in my mouth. I'm
We're
happy to-
we're about
just answer
2
the
minutes
question.
over here, so
That's
we're
fine.
just going to let Mr. Lohmeyer finish, and that's it.
So my point is, this is not an issue in which I've actively been involved. The renaming of base. I wrote a book about Marxist DEI, Marxist critical race theory. That's my expertise. I have no personal issue with the fact that this gentleman to my left, who honorably served his country, has been a part of a commission to do that. I have personal opinions about why it's wrong-headed and a part of an ideological push, but this is not my
So
issue.
you would not have renamed them, in other words.
Well, we're
Point of order.
2.5
That's
minutes
not
over.
something I ever focused on.
All right, I think I got my answer,
That's not
Mr.
something
Chairman.
I've
I'll
ever
yield back to
Go
you.
for Mr. Biggs.
Madam Speaker, I rise in strong support of HRES 863, impeaching Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. My Democrat colleagues argue that one cannot be impeached over policy differences. Well, I argue that breaking our laws is more than just policy differences. 300 dead Americans every day from fentanyl poisoning is more than just a policy difference. It's murder. He has violated his oath of office and breached the public trust by willfully refusing to ensure the laws passed by Congress and signed into law by the President are faithfully executed as required by Article 2 of the Constitution. He has allowed over 10 million illegal border crossers to invade our country, approximately 2 million of whom are known gotaways. These are people who have completely evaded U.S. authorities and are roaming the interior of the American communities, assaulting, raping, and murdering Americans. And God help us if we have a terrorist attack on our land.
The Trump-Putin MAGA faction, headed up by the distinguished gentlelady from Georgia, has been given this worthless trinket of a consolation prize, the opportunity to bring a slapstick impeachment drive against a cabinet member of unimpeachable integrity who has obviously committed no treason, no bribery, no high crimes, no misdemeanors, nothing indictable or even indictable, if you prefer. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mr. Chairman, we're here because the madcap wild goose chase to impeach Joe Biden has produced no wild geese. Even Fox News is lampooning the fact that their own expert witnesses repeatedly say President Biden did nothing wrong and there are no grounds for impeachment. More than a dozen GOP members in Biden majority districts don't want to go anywhere near that fantasy production. What makes this farce a tragedy is that Secretary Mayorkas and the U.S. Senate have been working for months to achieve precisely the immigration and border compromise the GOP has been demanding. And miraculously, they got to a bipartisan immigration agreement for billions of dollars more in Border Patrol officers, immigration judges, fentanyl detection machines, a far tougher border. It was good enough for Senator Mitch McConnell and dozens of GOP senators, and it was good enough for the Wall Street Journal, but the House MAGAs would not take yes for an answer. Why? Because Donald Trump doesn't want a border solution. He wants a border problem, nothing else to run on. And Vladimir Putin certainly doesn't want $60 billion going to the heroic people of Ukraine, defying his filthy imperialist invasion. All over the world, democracy and freedom are under siege today, and all our colleagues can think to do is to sell out our Democratic allies and sell out the cause of human rights, and then impeach a cabinet secretary working diligently to solve the immigration problem that they claim to care about. I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I also want to thank all of our witnesses for their excellent testimony today, and also for their service to the country, and also members of this committee who served in the uniform as well as in this body. Mr. Seidel, do I have the right? Or General Seidel, I want to look at 3 attacks on politicization or diversity changes, and the thing that I guess people are calling woke. I want to start with women in the military, and of course, women were systematically excluded from the military for a long time, and there's a huge struggle about that. And finally, women were able to enter the armed forces on relatively equal status. I don't know if my friend Mr. Higgins would consider these part of the traditional American soldiers or not, but women have served for a long time in different capacities and now have equality. But if I'm assuming that women in the military want the same rights that women across the country do, and after Donald Trump's gerrymandered Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade and women's right to choose, which was in the law for more than a half century, women across the country have rejected that and have stood up for their full reproductive freedom, including in Kansas, Wisconsin, Michigan, California, Vermont, you name it. Everywhere it's been on the ballot, vast majorities of women and men have supported women's right to choose. So I assume, now I don't have a study on it, but I assume women in the military feel the same way, that they would want to maintain their right to choose their own reproductive health care. Now, Senator Tuberville interfered with hundreds and hundreds of military promotions for many, many months in order to stop women in the military from having their complete full access to reproductive choice and to health care. Now, who do you think is politicizing the military? Is it Senator Tuberville with his anti-choice agenda, where he wants to dictate to all of the women of the military what their access will be to health care? Or is it those women themselves? Are they the ones that are somehow perpetrating a woke agenda by saying that they want to have equal choice? And don't we depend on women in the military these days? Last I saw, it was something like 18 or 20%, even in the Army. So please answer that if you would.
Yes, I would say that Senator Tuberville created political pawns out of those general officers. We have a non-political army, and we're one of the few countries in the history of the world that has never had a military coup d'etat, and it's partly because we are non-political. And yet, Senator Tuberville created political pawns for a policy he disagreed with. I couldn't disagree more with him for doing that and hurting our force and those general and flag officers.
The military also depends on lots of African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans. That's just a reality. You might love it, you might hate it, you might be ambivalent about it, you might just accept it. But in any event, that's the reality, as I understand it. And in any event, the Army decided that it wanted to rename military bases that had been named not after U.S. generals, but after Confederate generals who joined the Confederacy in rebellion against the Union. So, like Fort Benning was renamed after a pro-Union, pro-American general. Fort Gordon was renamed as Fort Eisenhower. Fort Hill was renamed as Fort Walker. And yet, I take it this is part of the big anti-woke arraignment and indictment of the military, that we have renamed military bases after pro-Union, pro-American soldiers, generals, people who've been loyal and faithful to the Union, as opposed to those who have opposed the Union and took up arms against the Union in traitorous insurrection.
My time has expired, so I recognize my friend and colleague, Mr. Raskin, for 5 minutes for a question.
Thank you kindly, Chairman Higgins, and wonderful to be here with you. It may just be you and me left here on Capitol Hill. Our colleagues seem to have made their way to the airport. But I'm glad we're going to get a chance to discuss this after a very eventful week or two. I believe the Speaker sent us into recess. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Higgins, but I think that we're going to be away for a couple weeks now. But here's where I think we are, and Mr. Hauser, I wanted to get... Sorry?
You can stay.
Oh, good. I appreciate that. Democracy and freedom are under siege all over the world right now. And we have terrorists in the Middle East. We have Vladimir Putin, who has executed a filthy, bloody, imperialist invasion of Ukraine to destabilize their democracy and take over their country. We have the communist bureaucrats of China destabilizing the Indo-Pacific. And so President Biden has said we need to get aid, $60 billion to our allies in Ukraine, who are under the gun with Russian military drones and attacks on civilians. The Israeli government is responding to Hamas's brutal terrorist atrocities of October 7th. We have a besieged, suffering population in Gaza, which would be the partial recipient of $10 billion going out in humanitarian relief, both to Gaza and to people in Ukraine, and then money also going to the Indo-Pacific. But what we heard from the Republicans is, no way, we're not going to help our Democratic allies and besieged peoples all over the world unless we deal with the border first. To the shock and dismay of Senator McConnell and the Senator Lankford, the other ultra-conservative Republican senators who spent time negotiating that deal and getting the vast majority of everything they wanted, and you've got the Republican leaders in the Senate saying we will never get a better deal than this, and they destroyed it because Donald Trump didn't want it, and so everybody got in line like a bunch of lemmings and walked the cliff with Donald Trump. And I think what happened in the 3rd District of New York, replacing Mr. Santos with our colleague Tom Suozzi, demonstrates to them what America understands. They think America doesn't understand. America does understand who was serious about the border and immigration and who is serious about defending democracy and freedom in our allies around the world. Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. Today our colleagues are using their first full committee hearing of the year to distract from the depressing reality that they failed to bring forward even a single piece of serious bipartisan legislation, much less a bipartisan bill to improve our immigration system and confront our major challenges on the southern border. The 118th Congress is shaping up to be one of the most unproductive in American history, with only 34 bills signed into law in 2023, a small fraction of the number typically enacted in a year. They simply have no program for America and just operate at the beck and call of Donald Trump. So with no positive program on infrastructure, healthcare, education, or anything else to run on, the do-nothing MAGA Republicans are hoping that simply demagoguing the issue of immigration, while not addressing it in any serious way, will be their ticket back to the White House. Then Trump can resume the real work that he wants to accomplish, pocketing for himself and his family tens of millions or billions of dollars from foreign governments like Communist China and the murderous monarchs of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Qatar, and so on. But they forget that, as with reproductive freedom, the American people have real values on immigration. America is a nation of immigrants, but it's also a nation of laws, and we must make America accessible for lawful immigration while we reduce and discourage unlawful immigration. So where's their plan? The immigration system has been broken for decades. We know that migration surges are provoked by economic and social crisis, war, violence, lack of opportunity, and natural disasters, rather than the specific immigration policies of any particular administration. As we'll hear from our expert witness today from the Cato Institute, scholars across the spectrum have found evidence that it is the strength of our country's labor market, coupled with inadequate pathways to legal migration, that are the domestic factors that best explain the immigration surges that we see. So if we have a record high jobs rate, as we do under President Biden, 4% for 2 years, and a great demand for workers in the country, but far too few legal options for entry to the country, we will be dealing with a lot of unlawful entry. The difficult challenges posed by immigration require comprehensive policy solutions, and that's what Democrats have advanced. On his first day in office, President Biden sent Congress the U.S. Citizenship Act, a strong immigration reform proposal that would modernize and invest in greater border security, expand lawful pathways to immigration and citizenship, address immigrant visa backlogs, and combat the underlying conditions that fuel migration in the first place. Biden has acted to strengthen the American immigration system and enforcement of our border security laws. He ordered the hiring of 300 additional Border Patrol agents, the first hiring increase of such agents in more than a decade which included the big-talking and wall-obsessed Trump administration. I was just making the point that our colleagues who are arraigning Mr. Biden today on charges that he has not rendered 100% compliance, allegedly with a subpoena, are standing by Republican colleagues who've rendered 0% compliance with their subpoenas, including Mr. Jordan, Mr. Biggs, and Mr. Perry, when they have material information about the violent attack on the Capitol, the Congress, and the Vice President of the United States on January 6, 2021. In any event, for the last 11 months, the chairman has repeatedly refused offers from Hunter Biden and his attorney to meet with the chairman and his staff and with members of this committee. On February 9th, just one day after the chairman's first letter to Hunter Biden, Mr. Biden's lawyer responded and offered Chairman Comer to, quote, sit with you and your staff, including the ranking member and his staff, to see whether Mr. Biden has information that may inform some legitimate legislative purpose and be helpful to the committee. The chairman never responded. On September 13th, Mr. Biden's lawyer again wrote to Chairman Comer after a Newsmax interview in which the chairman falsely claimed that he never got a response back to his original letter. Mr. Biden's attorney explained the chairman actually never responded to his offer to sit down and discuss the committee's request, but stated that he remained available to have the discussion, but the chairman again completely failed to respond. 2 months later, on November 8th, Chairman Comer and Jordan issued subpoenas to Mr. Biden requiring his appearance for a deposition on December 13th. In the cover letter, the chairman noted, given your client's willingness to address this investigation publicly up to this point, we would expect him to testify before Congress. Throughout the fall, the chairman urged Mr. Biden to come appear at a public committee hearing. On September 13th, on Newsmax, the chairman stated, Hunter Biden is more than welcome to come in front of the committee. If he wants to clear his good name, if he wants to come and say, you know, there weren't 20 show companies, he's invited today. We'll drop everything. On October 31, on a nationwide podcast, the chairman stated, we have mountains of evidence. Now we're ready to bring them in. We're in the downhill phase now because we have so many documents and we can bring these people in for depositions or committee hearings, whichever they choose. For depositions or committee hearings, whichever they choose, and we can ask these questions with evidence. On November 6th, again on Newsmax, our good chairman stated, "I will extend that invitation on your show right now, Rob, if the Biden family wants to join Tony Bobulinski in an official oversight committee hearing and answer questions that the American people have, then that invitation's open right now. They can come on in and do that." On November 28th, Hunter Biden, through his lawyer, agreed to Chairman Comer's multiple public requests. He agreed to appear precisely at a public hearing under oath to answer the committee's questions on December 13th. Exactly what our good colleagues, the Republicans who had information about January 6th, never agreed to do. They never agreed to testify anywhere under oath about what they knew. The letter that came in from Mr. Biden embraced the importance of having a public proceeding that, quote, would prevent selective leaks, manipulated transcripts, doctored exhibits, or one-sided press statements, especially in light of the committee's past use of closed-door sessions to manipulate, even distort the facts,
Mr.
and
Chairman,
misinform the
Mr. Chairman,
public.
I have an inquiry.
State your point.
Mr. Chairman, don't we have House rules and committee rules regarding subpoenas and then rules about having hearings and having questions with witnesses
We
that
do.
must be followed?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to reclaim my
Could you
time.
state the rules, Mr. Chairman?
Hold on.
We
one
could
second.
just interrupt each
Mr.
other with an
Raskin,
inquiry?
Your time was expired.
I'd like to know the rules of the House and our committee.
Read them.
They're available to every member.
The rules state for a deposition, if that's what you're asking, 3 days' notice. You have to have the stenographer and all of that. So that's.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
just to clarify,
All right,
we can't have
Mr.
someone just
Raskin's
walk
time's
in.
expired.
Mr. Chairman, point of
Do
inquiry.
any other members wish to be heard?
Mr. Chairman, point of inquiry.
Mr. Chairman, I did endure multiple interruptions in my opening. Could I finish? Would that be all
Well,
right?
you went over your 5 minutes, but I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Okay. The chairman refused to take yes for an answer from Hunter Biden. Instead, on December 1, they pulled a bait and switch. They changed the terms of their request. They rejected his offer or his acceptance of their offer and insisted that he now come in and sit for a secret closed-door deposition. On December 6, Hunter Biden's lawyer reiterated that Hunter Biden was willing to accept the chair's original request and once again offered to appear on December 13th or any other date in December to answer any question pertinent and relevant to the subject matter. He again raised concerns about closed-door sessions. That's what brings us to today, Mr. Chairman. He has materially, substantially, in good faith complied with what your requests were.
He complied with the subpoena. I don't think he complied.
We
Your
would have
time's expired.
We
Do
would have
any-
loved that.
Do
kind
any
of
other members
compliance.
wish to be heard?